So the main question we'll start with is, how do I use barcoding in my business? Between us, we've spoken to hundreds, definitely hundreds of small businesses. And one of the major pieces of feedback that we found is like businesses are interested in barcoding, but they never feel like they have the time to get started. It feels like something they got to go out of their way to learn. And it's actually not too hard. And we want to show you that in this webinar.
And as a result of talking to some companies, we actually added some things to inFlow recently to try to speed it up even more and make it easier. So that's the focus of our webinar for today.
Yeah, it's not just like how easy it is, but we've made changes to like built the workflow right into inFlow now. Yeah. All right, first slide. So step one is whether you're going to use the barcodes for internal or external use. And let's dig into that a little bit further. By internal, I'm talking about whether you want to just use them for your inventory management only at your business. So these are items these are barcodes that you're not going to use outside at, let's say, Walmart, or Best Buy if you're selling your products there. And the main strengths, if we just have to bring it down to bullet points, the main strengths of going barcoding is increasing your internal efficiency. So let's take, for example, one of these boxes here. You're going to have, where's the barcode on this box? There we go. If I was going to type out all of the digits in this SKU, that takes a while. And there's a lot of room for error there when you're typing out 12 digits, as opposed to just taking a scanner and going beep once, and the inFlow can like tie the barcode number to the item name. So you're simplifying a 12-digit number into just one click. So things can go a lot faster, especially if you're processing a lot of items. And the other thing is it reduces chances of errors. All those keystrokes, 12 for one product, you multiply that by a lot of products versus just aiming this and pressing click. So if you want to generate barcodes for internal use, we'd suggest inFlow right now because, as we said, we've built it right in, and we're going to be going through that pretty soon. The other thing is whether you'd like to use something externally. So if you're going to sell, like if you were DYMO, you couldn't use an inFlow generated barcode because you'd want to sell this on places like Amazon and Best Buy and other places. And when you do that, you need officially licensed GS1 barcodes. They're basically like the worldwide provider of unique barcodes, and they help you guarantee that your barcode on your product is not going to conflict with anybody else's. It's completely unique. And the reason we say at the bottom here that you can buy from GS1 or Nationwide Barcode is GS1's the official provider, but they're also resellers of barcodes. Like Nationwide has a whole bunch of them, and they'll share them with others for a price. So it's like you can use external barcodes in inFlow as well, but in terms of generating barcodes for external use, you're going to want to use GS1 or Nationwide. All right.
So let us know. We'd like to get a sense of how many people are actually going to be using your barcodes internally just to speed up your own process. How many people are going to be needing the barcodes to be used externally, and so you can't use our barcode generation. So I've just published a poll. If you want to just vote, just let us know. We'll get a sense based on who's here, whether you'll be using them just internally or if you need them to be used externally. That gives us a sense of how helpful our barcode generation is going to be. Is it going to help most people or not help people? Go ahead and vote. I'll leave that open for a little while, and then we'll see what happens with that. In the meantime, I'll go over how you can fill in the barcodes if you are using inFlow for the generation, or if you're using something else. So step 2 is actually filling in the barcodes, whether once you've decided if you're just using them internally or if you're using them externally. So one thing you can do now with inFlow that's relatively new is have inFlow generate the barcodes for you. And you'd go into your company settings to do that, and there's a new barcode fields option where you can set up a prefix, choose to have inFlow generate all of the empty barcodes, and basically you'll see here I went from having no barcodes to when I refresh after I turn that setting on, I'm full of barcodes. So If you do have thousands and thousands and thousands of products, you probably want to do this just at the very end of the day. That way it'll just fill in for you in the background overnight. And then when you come in, it'll be good to go. Because if you do have like a huge amount, you may find it slows your system a little bit. In my case, I don't have that many products, so it was super quick. But yeah, if you have a ton of products, probably just do it at the end of the day and it'll fill them in for you. And then the next option, if you don't want inFlow to generate because you do need to use them externally, which actually so far all of the votes are for internally. So if you do need to buy them because you're going to be selling in retail stores, so Kevin, it won't overwrite existing barcodes. It'll basically just fill in any ones that are blank. So if you do have some products that come from your supplier with barcodes on them, you can use those. The other option, if you do have to buy them, you can import them from a spreadsheet, or if you do want to make your own format of how the code actually looks, you can also import them from a spreadsheet. You just need a column in the spreadsheet for the name, a column for the barcode, and then inside of inFlow, you would do a product details import, and that'll just populate them all at once.
And if you don't have that spreadsheet yet, inFlow can make it for you. If you export your product details from the main menu, you'll see in that CSV file, there's already going to be a column for barcode.
Yeah, and so if you have some of the barcodes filled in, it could keep them populated. If you wanted to remove them because you want to just have all of the inFlow generated ones, you can remove them and re-import blank ones to have inFlow as well, if some people have asked for that. Otherwise, if you, again, are buying them or you already have them on some of your products, you would just click into the barcode field and you can go ahead and just scan the barcode right away. So that's another option too, if you have them already on your products. And then finally, another option is to actually use the Android or iPhone app. So another option is scanning a barcode from your phone. If you have the Android or iOS app on your phone, you can just find the product record, use your phone's built-in camera to scan the barcode and save it. And that saves across, it saves back to the Windows app, it saves across all your data. Okay, and then once you actually have the barcodes filled into the barcode field in inFlow, then you can create the labels.
Oh, that's me. All right, so as you can see in this GIF, we're in the web app, the inFlow Cloud web app. And that's where you're going to want to go and set up the DYMO integration. That's the very first step in terms of printing labels out of inFlow. We've got a step-by-step wizard right in there, so it'll guide you through everything. But the main thing to remember is that you'll need to do this starting from the web app. Next up is using DYMO software to create a label template. And as I said, that wizard in the web app also has a link to this, to the download link for the software. So it's a pretty easy thing. It installs on Windows very quickly. And this is what it looks like, this playing GIF right here. What you can do here is design the look and feel of a template that you'd like to create for your products. And once you have that done, it's time to go back to the web app and upload that label file to DYMO. And it's kind of like custom documents in inFlow if you've ever used those before. One other thing to know about the integration is that we do support multiple templates. So just because you uploaded a file doesn't mean that's the only label file you can have. inFlow can support multiple ones. So you can have some for jewelry or some for larger products like these boxes here. And once you've saved it to the web app, you can go back to inFlow Cloud for Windows. I know it sounds like I was saying like go back and forth, but it's really just so that you can get the file into the web. You'll probably only be doing that a couple of times, over the course of using barcodes. Now, once you have the templates ready, one major place you're going to use them is the purchase order screen. So you're going to notice a new label button towards the top of the action bar. And it's there that you can create new labels for items that you've received in a purchase order. This is good so that as stuff comes in, you can keep it labeled, keep it up to date, so you don't have products in your inventory that aren't scannable. So when you actually go through to print the label, this is what you would see, this screenshot. It'll pre-fill the label area with products from that purchase order. In this example, we ordered 20 of this first item, 15 of the second, and 10 of the third. And these numbers are already pre-filled. And the other major spot where you can print labels from is from the current stock screen. So this is something you might want to do at the beginning, where you haven't been barcoding, and you want to just like get it for everything in the office. You can go to the current stock screen, and if you right click on one of the column headers, there's a new option there. And I forget the exact name of the option. Print labels, print current stock.
I think it's
print labels from these items. There you go.
Yeah.
And it'll bring up that window that we just showed you over here. So again, current stock window, right click on the header, and everything that's filtered on your current stock screen right now, you can print labels for. So this is a great way for getting the whole office barcoded right at the beginning.
And then you happen to find a product with just an individual product that's missing a label, you can print that from the product page as well.
All right.
So the next step is to actually start scanning. So what can you do once you've actually barcoded your products? So one thing you can do is scan to just look up a product. You can add the barcode filter to the left there and then scan the barcode in and it will pull up the product. So if you're searching for something, instead of keying it in, you can just enter the barcode by scanning. You can also, another thing you can do is scan items into orders. So if you have more of a retail type environment and you're ringing up a customer, you can do that. You can scan items to show that they've been picked or scan items to show that they've been shipped. And we're gonna go through our recommendation for handling that, but you could use it for any of those things. And same with on a purchase order, you could scan to show what's been received, for example, as well. So that brings us to, we are gonna go through our recommended picking process. Thomas, take it away.
All right. So in order to come up with this process, what we did was we talked with a few inventory experts. We reached out and had conversations with them. We interviewed a couple of our customers about their own picking processes. And then we also made changes to inFlow itself, changes like that barcode generation feature that we went through earlier, in order to make it as easy as possible to get barcoding and stay current with your barcoding. So the first step here is to, well, actually, I should outline the ideal number of people we'd say for this process is 3, at least 3. At the beginning, it might all be one person with several titles, right? It might just be you. But ideally, you're going to have an order taker. Sorry. You're going to have an order taker. You're going to have a picker, and you're going to have a packer. And we're going to go through who's going to be doing what in the following steps.
And we'd love to hear your feedback too about how many people are involved at your company with the picking process. Is it just one person that does everything, or are there several people? Do you have a separate packer, separate picker, and so on?
Yeah, absolutely. So the order taker would go to, once an order has been basically created in inFlow, they would go to the pick tab of that sales order and they would use autofill. Now we're using this as kind of it helps us with scanning in the next few steps to help you double check that you pick the right number of items, but we're also doing it in case you have serialized items, because in case you have multiple stations of inFlow and people could pick, let's say you're selling cell phones and each cell phone has a unique serial number. This prevents you from having a situation where 2 pickers are going into the warehouse and oops, they're aiming for the same cell phone because they both got the same serial number. By autofilling right at the beginning, you're telling inFlow this item has been taken up and nobody else can have the serial number.
And it also just reserves items in general. So,
Yeah.
So picking basically subtracts the inventory. So you won't accidentally, if you had multiple pickers, have one thinking the inventory is there when it's actually not available.
All right, next one is for the picker to start, and they would grab a printed pick list from the printer and actually go out and collect the items. For right now, what we've found is the best way is really for businesses to just use pen and paper. Take a sheet, take a pick list around with you, like the one we have on screen there. That's actually an inFlow pick list. And as you go around the warehouse, have pen, paper with you. And as you pick things off the shelf, circle them. We suggest circling them instead of like dashing them off, because that way you can still read the number afterwards. And then the next step, the picker is done. They drop off the items, a packing station basically. And then now it's time for the packer to take over. So they would go to that same sales order in inFlow. They would go to the ship tab and they would scan those physical items right onto the order. And the reason we say scan here is because then you have the scanner sort of acting like a second check for you. Somebody was manually taking things off the shelf, but this one, you have the computer helping you out to make sure that it's the exact printer that you wanted to sell. And to help make it more of a checking process, we've added a new discrepancy window. The GIF is playing through right now.
So you'll see in the bottom corner, there's a new section that says a percentage that's been packed. And if you click on packed, it'll pull up everything that has actually been packed and whether there's discrepancies, whether there's too much that has been pulled or not enough. You'll see both those there.
Mm-hmm. And I'll cheat for just a second and answer one question from the top because it's super relevant to this. Do we scan when we pick? Right now, we'd probably say no. Like, we think that it might be more efficient to have the pen and paper and then scan for shipping. And the shipping step actually acts as your check. But that's not an absolute workflow. If you feel like picking with a scanner is faster to your business, then go ahead. But we want to get a suggested workflow that works for most of our customers.
And the other consideration with this and our recommendation around this, we're kind of recommending you have a packing station that has a Windows computer set up. Whereas for a lot of people, it depends on your warehouse size, whether it's easy for you to grab everything, bring it to the station and scan it to mark it as picked, or, it depends on where your computer is relative to your warehouse and how big your warehouse is. So it might not be perfect for everyone, but we're kind of trying to think if your computer is kind of far from where you're picking things, then one option is to do that physical printout, pick everything, bring it back, and scan to verify.
Awesome. So let's go on to the next one. So once the packer has filled up the ship tab by scanning things in, it's just time to go to the print button in the action bar, go to packing list, and whichever other shipping documents you feel like you need. In this example, we had a box label as well. So we printed out the packing list and box label.
And the last part of our webinar, we always show off kind of what's new since the last time we all got together. So Thomas is going to show off what's new since the last time we met up.
Okay. So first up, inFlow Cloud companion apps for both iPhone and Android. When we launched inFlow Cloud, we just had an Android app, and it was actually a little different. We completely rewrote it when we published the iPhone one as well. What you can do now with these is do things like edit and view customers, edit and view products, and do quick stock adjustments. And there's a built-in scanner. The Android app also has, because Android is a little more open with its ecosystem, you can now attach a barcode scanner to the Android app. And you can scan right onto your stock adjustment screen with an external scanner, which is pretty cool. Next up, we've got sales orders and quotes in web browser. So when we launched web, it was basically kind of a view-only thing at first. But we've been pretty steadily expanding it over this year. And now you can create sales orders. You can't fulfill them just yet. We're working on web sales fulfillment. But right now you can go in there, add items, quantities, prices, and then save them. And then you can go back and view orders.
And then you'd have to fulfill them from the Windows app. But the hope here is, for example, if you're sending a sales rep out into the field and they only have like a tablet that's not running Windows, they can do quotes with customers on the spot, or they can put in sales orders. And then your staff back at the warehouse can start on fulfillment because it'll be submitted in real time and it all syncs.
But again, think of that as like step 1 and 2. We are working on sales order fulfillment, so you can do it from there. Related to that is the web app has now been optimized to work better on tablets, things like an iPad Pro, like the big one and the smaller ones. So the fields have been made a bit bigger. You can expand the list with taps. So do check that out if you've been wanting to try sales on the go. Barcode generation is something that's very, very relevant to this particular webinar. So this is a screenshot of the settings window in the Windows app. And as you can see in that company tab, there is now a barcode fields section. And by default, it's not going to generate them for you. So don't worry about inFlow, updating inFlow and suddenly having your barcodes overwritten. This is something that you would have to turn on, and then it'll generate barcodes according to the prefix, number, and suffix that you would like. So if you wanted all your barcodes to say like your store name at the start or something like that, you could do that. Next up, the picking and packing progress indicators. If you're in the fulfill tab, the pick tab, the ship tab of a sales order, also the receive tab of a PO too, right? In the bottom right corner, you're going to see a percentage. And this is kind of a relative percentage. In this example, we've fulfilled 62% of the order in the screenshot. So we've, of all the items that were in the sales tab, we've now have 62% of them in the fulfill tab. So this kind of helps to reinforce the idea of different roles. If you had a picker going in, they could see, oh, you know what? I haven't picked everything on this order. There's more stuff in the sales tab. So it serves as a nice quick reminder while keeping you in the workspace that you're using. Next up is a new report. So we've had a historical inventory report for quite a while. It lets you go back in time and see your inventory levels as of a particular date. It's like an inventory time machine. And this one helps you get a little bit more specific. Instead of overall inventory levels, this one can break it down by location back in time, which is pretty cool. And by the way, you will find that in the inventory report section. So just head to your main menu, reports, all reports, and then it's in the inventory report section. And then as somebody who's done support here, email setup can be kind of difficult just because a lot of people have very different email services, and it can be tough to get past all of your security settings and have emails sent out from inFlow. So what we've done is enable inFlow to send emails on your behalf. This is set up by default for a lot of new users to inFlow. So what you can do is head to your email settings in the Windows app. You'll see this window that's on the screen right now, and it'll be pre-filled with your particular inFlow email address already. Let's say your info@inflowinventory.com was your account. When you send emails out, it'll come from that address. And when people reply, they'll be replying to that address. So it's a much, much faster setup. And I think it probably helps a lot of customers who are behind like big firewalls and were having trouble with that before. If you're using the old email settings where you had to configure all of the ports and stuff like that yourself, you can use this. You just need to do a little bit of resetting just beforehand. We have support articles on that and the support site.
All right.
Thanks
Take
for your
care,
time,
everybody.